Before we begin, thank you very much to Mega Klutz for joining the Patreon campaign. I didn't make up the name. That was the name they wanted to shout it out. There you go. Thank you very much for the support. Always appreciated. You are due a request, though, if you want to DM me a video you would like to see me do, as long as it's within the vibe of what I do. I will let you know if it is something that I think needs to be adjusted, but you know what? For the most part, just tell me what you want. We'll see what we can do. Now, speaking of people telling us what we want, we need to address the last Hasbro Pulse live stream. They are introducing Powermasters back into the toy market, and they asked us, well, what do you want? So I'm here to answer. For the collective of the Transformers fandom, I am going to speak on behalf of all of us and tell Hasbro exactly what we want for Powermasters. I am sure I will not screw this up in any way, shape, or form, trying to represent an incredibly diverse fandom with varying opinions that can wildly differ. or you know what? I'll just let you know what I want out of Powermasters as far as like new toys go. We can do that. I suppose that's fine too. So I will tell you right off the bat, our introduction is Joyride, because obviously that mold that they did for Sure Shot was designed to eventually be Joyride. I don't want what they did with Joyride. Let's put it that way. Toy-wise, Joyride looks fine. There are adaptations in order to fit the modern mold, for instance, and I don't think they're necessarily bad. The original Joyride, for instance, had like all red arms and didn't really look all that good, if I'm going to be completely honest. I do like the color variations a lot more here. It definitely feels a lot more varied. In general, it's better looking than the original toy was. A little bit more colorful, a little bit more balanced at the same time. But that said, robot mode is not my issue. My issue is this thing. My issue is that thing sitting on top of this dune buggy. So, they made this sound like this was a really cool thing, right? Like, during the feed, they literally said, like, look at this big, cool engine. Like, Mark is trying so hard to upsell this gigantic block that's vaguely molded like an engine on top as, like, a really cool feature in addition. And if you like the look of a gigantic engine block sticking up, I'm not going to fault you. But I do want us to admit it is a retooled Target Master that now just has engine parts on top of it instead of gun barrels. And there is part of me in my head screaming, I think I'd rather just have the gun barrels. If you look at it this way, it means the accessory that was originally for both modes no longer is. You had the gun mode, which could mount as a weapon on the vehicle mode, just like most Transformer guns can mount on the vehicle mode. But in robot mode, this is now just a standard, normal action figure, little mini figure to go with your main action figure, but it doesn't do anything for him after that. It's just a little companion guy. It's like basically like a toy dog following him around. It's like it's not doing anything except making him look a little bit more impressive, right? I would rather have the gun. I will be honest with you. Like, I would rather forget the premise of the Powermaster thing here and just have the gun. But no, it's lacking. It's lacking. I understand this might be just because it's a retool, and they don't really have the space to adapt anything else. Future Powermasters, if we get brand new molds for them, I would rather go with like having a cavity open on the figure where these could slot into. Thus, the engine actually looks like it's integrating with the vehicle and fits a lot more flush to the lines of the car, jet, truck, whatever it happens to be. You know, I would much rather it be designed to incorporate the engine, not just like let it sit on top like this abandoned Lego project. And if you want the inspiration for this, if you want like a way to get around this, so you don't have to look any further than the Power of the Primes toy line, specifically any of the deluxes that came with that big fist gun. Because the fist gun had that little trick to it where, I guess it's not really a gun. It was the armor. I hated that gimmick. But in order to make it feel like a little bit more of an accessory and to give you sockets for putting in like Prime Masters, it had that little cover, right? So you took that little cover out of the fist, and that little cover now became like a little handgun. And that gave you the cavity for the power, for the Titan Master or Prime Master, whichever one you used, to plug in. That was how you're supposed to like plug one of those into the armor mode, right? You could adapt the exact same trick for these Power Masters. You could even scale it the same. Like, I don't think all of them need to be like the size of a Target Master accessory. They can be scaled down closer to Titan. You could literally do it as like a 3-piece like component, you know, like body with head and arms sculpted in, legs on a hinge that fold 180 degrees, engine sculpt on the back. 3 parts, in and out, just plug it in straight into the vehicle mode, right? Simple. Doesn't have to be complicated. And yeah, like this kind of proved that you could do it that way. Now, the gap would have to be built in, and rather than like a cover that turned into a gun, it mostly would be like a cover that if you weren't using the Power Master, you could have this as like an accessory or a piece that goes somewhere else in the robot mode or the vehicle mode, whatever. Basically, just something to make it look like a solid toy without the engine, but, you know, has this little removable piece that will make the engine look a lot more flush, you know? And that's really what it needs. If it's not that, then I need that engine piece to be on a port that I can take off and plug in, because that's what your art depicted. That is not the engine that's on that toy. That is the top of the engine directly onto the toy. And this is the other solution that you could go with. Just has to be removable on a 3 or 5 millimeter post. Plug it into the top of the vehicle. It's sculpted to fit flush. Looks way, way better than whatever this Joyride is doing in vehicle mode, right? So I would do that. I would do it in one of those 2 ways. But let's be real here. When they ask, like, what would you like to see out of new Power Masters? We don't really have a whole lot of room, do we? There's only 7. For the US toy line, we had 7 of them. We don't have a whole lot of wiggle room on this one. We genuinely don't. Even if we expand this to include the Godmasters, we still barely have, like, enough for even half of a toy line. And really, we have even less than that. You know, it wasn't that long ago we got a brand new Double Dealer who was basically everything Double Dealer needs to be. I mean, yes, it's using Soundwave cassettes instead of like actual Power Masters, but I felt like for what they were, that was a heck of a lot closer than using a folded up Target Master with an engine block on its legs. This toy was fine. I feel like this toy had some tolerance issues and a little bit of engineering flaw, but really, like, if they really wanted to just make a run of Power Masters, I could absolutely see this retooled to include like something akin to the Power Masters without having to have like cassette accessories, and maybe potentially like shore up some of that engineering, like loose joints especially. I don't know what it is. Double dealers cannot get lucky with joints. They just can't. There's always got to be some kind of QC issue. But you know what? We already kind of covered the base on one of the most prominent Power Masters. And even if we include Godmasters, we've done that too. I think the Titans Return Overlord toy is pretty good for what it is. I think this is a really, really good toy. I mean, it's articulated, does all the Overlord stuff, you know, as well as you can on a leader class budget at the time. You're swapping out Titan Master for Power Master, but frankly, I call that an upgrade in the first place. And let's be real, the only reason any of us bought that screaming face Nightbeat Titan Master they sold was to plug 2 of them into this guy's chest and watch his boobs scream. Hey, we find our own way of having fun. But I think this toy was great as it is. Now, granted, if you look at the Japanese version, there is definitely more that it can do. There's accessories that it's lacking. The base mode is supposed to be way more drawn out and way more expansive than the actual American the American toy ended up being. This definitely could be done. I feel like this is perfect, like commander scale choice. I feel like he makes a great choice for a commander at some point. This is what I would like. I would like you to redo another Overlord, doing everything the Overlord toy does, but up its scale, up its budget, etc. Still, I would almost consider that check boxed, or that box checked. Strike that, reverse it. So, we could technically do the same thing with Super Jinrai. Obviously, they already mentioned Powermaster Optimus Prime, right? So, in that case, you know they're going to do another one, right? Like, there is nothing. Like, I like what they did during Titan's Return. I think the only flaw to this toy was the fact that, well, one, the American version kept a lot of, like, the heavy tooling. Like, trying to split the difference between Super Jinrai and God Jinrai, I didn't like that so much. But the overall figure I thought was actually pretty solid. Considering it's an Ultra Magnus retool, I think it's very solid. And I think the only thing weighing it down was literally God Bomber. Because God Bomber was not designed very well. Or this toy was not designed to handle God Bomber. One or the other. Take your pick. Still, it's still a good figure. But again, does not quite scratch the itch, does it? I could absolutely go for it. Having the masterpiece makes me go like, yeah, like there's actually a lot more they could do. We could absolutely have like a much more like fully fleshed out super, like Powermaster Optimus Prime, super mode and all. Also, this is kind of like where I put my case forward of like removable panel and gap for the Powermaster to go into, rather than sticking out of the toy. Can you imagine this Optimus Prime in vehicle mode with just this massive companion cube sticking out the front of the vehicle mode? You've got to clean it up, Hasbro. I think if any request for Powermasters is heard, it has to be, they have to be cleaner than Joyride turned out. That's my big thing right now. Just, it's got to be cleaner than the Joyride. But point being, this is definitely something they will do at some point, and if anything, we have proof positive that we are going through like an age of Commander class Optimus Primes are just the best Optimus Primes you are going to get. You know, the Armada one, absolutely fantastic. Like, genuinely one of the best toys that they have done in recent years. The 86 Optimus Prime, one of the best toys they have done in years. Like, we're in this kind of golden age where they kind of figured out the budget of a super mode Optimus Prime in that size scale. And I have no doubt they could do the exact same thing with a Powermaster Optimus Prime, and if they mention it on the live stream, I guarantee you it's already on a design table somewhere. They're already figuring it out. But, like, honestly, Double Dealer, Overlord, Optimus, this is easy, right? This is easy stuff about Powermasters. Like, I can give general advice of how I like to see them done, but when it comes to, like, character requests, I feel like, yeah, like, they know. They know the ones that everyone's going to want and ask for because, as we've seen, they've already done them. So who is missing? Well, there is Dreadwing and Darkwing, or Darkwing, Dreadwind. Knew I wouldn't get that right the first time. Dreadwing and Darkwing. Dreadwing, the two of them combined. The two toys that make up Dreadwing. They are one of the most prominent things about Powermasters. If you are not looking at Powermaster Optimus Prime, you are generally looking toward those two, Darkwing, Dreadwind. And I feel like those are the obvious ones. They came out during Power of the Primes, but they were retools of the aerial bots. So between all the things they had to do as like Combiner War style combiners, and they had to have the combination vehicle mode gimmick, I feel like those got really bogged down, especially because they also had to work within the engineering limits of being a retool. They are incredibly compromised figures, and I would absolutely love to see a brand new take on them. If I have requests for Powermasters, it does not get any higher than those two. But those two also raise a little bit of an issue that we could have, and it kind of relates to how they handled Titan Masters. So, when it comes to Japanese versions, very similar to what they did with Titan Masters, they would probably end up doing with these Powermasters. So here's Hydra. Hydra, hail Hydra, hail Hydra. I'm going too fast now. Hydra is the Japanese version of Darkwing. And the problem with that is there's only one color difference. They swapped the light blue for red, and now it's a completely different character. And that makes a very difficult sell in the US. I know Hasbro really, really likes to have these minor repaints so they don't have to put too much work into. It's why the Retro G1 Walmart line exists. So, you know they like to put out, like, slightly repainted versions, modified versions, call it a different character versions. Like, we know. We've been seeing it for years now. I know they would do this. But I feel like doing Buster and Hydra would be really underwhelming, no matter what. Because, this would be a shoo-in for Generation Selects, right? I wouldn't see it at a retail release because it really would look like the exact same toys in package outside, like, the people who are observant enough to notice the slight change. But that said, I figured out the way I want it done. If anyone at Hasbro really is listening to me, I figured out how I want it done. It is absolutely a Gen Selects release. So you 2-pack the two as their Masterforce counterparts, Buster and Hydra. But you throw in a little bit of something. So, do you know what that is? So, when Headmasters was done in Japan, they were smart enough to actually realize kids were going to lose these heads. So, they released individual Headmasters in order to solve that. They were brand new sculpts, brand new characters, and the idea was that you could not only replace the heads that you might have lost, but also it adds to the play pattern, so you can swap it around to different figures, see the stats that come up on the chest with the new heads, etc., and, have a little bit of variety with your Headmaster play. And that was great. That's a very smart idea by Takara. They did the same thing with Powermasters. Special individual ones, brand new recolors of existing Powermaster toys, so they weren't new sculpt, like the Japanese exclusive Headmasters were, but the spirit is there. They were replacements. So you could do the same thing. I would love this Masterforce multi-pack that included Buster, Hydra, and then the three different individual target, like Powermasters, retooled from, repainted from, like, whatever new tooling those get. It'd be a great little bonus to throw in. It's a fun little thing to make sure that they are all included. It makes for an interesting selects pack, right? Now, the only thing that gets me about Hasbro saying, like, yeah, we're moving into Powermasters now, is I kind of think back, well, like, wait, we're not even done with Headmasters. Titan's Return was a long time ago at this point, and we're still not even done with Headmasters. Like, we didn't get any of the juniors. Or the molds that became the juniors, rather. Like, we have a Minerva, but she's not a Headmaster. No Nightbeat. Like, here's a character who actually has, like, some popularity in the fandom. No new Nightbeat toy since, like, the original Generations line. And it's weird. It's weird. We're talking about moving on. And, like, I see how, like, the original, like, smaller Decepticon Headmasters, like Fangry, they've all gotten toys. We have a Horrible. How did we get a Horrible before we got a Nightbeat? I'm still waiting for them to finish this. I'm still waiting for them to finish Target Masters. Like, we're retooling Target Masters into Power Masters now. We haven't even gotten all of them yet. Like, I'm still looking for, like, a decent Crosshairs that actually looks like Crosshairs. I'm looking for Quick Mix. Toy I grew up with. I'd love to have a modern one. I don't want to just be a retool of a Constructicon. I actually want it to look like Quick Mix. it's weird to see them moving on to different like sections of Transformer like subgroups before they finish prior ones, because we know like from their own statement in the stream they're basically done now with the mini-bot collection. They finally got all the mini-bots out as new deluxes, aside from just like they want to do more of the weirdo repaints, which is great. But it also led to them saying, well, it might be time to move into throttle bots. The throttle bots are so boring. They all transform the exact same in their robot modes. All kind of have the same look to them. I don't know about that. But it does show that, like, in other ways, they are willing to stick to something until it's complete and then move on. We do the same thing with the primes. So why are we now getting... I don't know, we're moving into, like, these guys when I'm still waiting for the other guys to finish up. Oh, well. That, again, is just a minor observation. It's a nitpick, if anything. This is about Powermasters and how I want them released. And I think that generally fills up the thoughts. Like, I don't want them to fill it up. I don't want them to do the retro headmaster thing where they just fill the wall full of, like, slightly different versions of all of these toys. Even though I know they're going to, because so many of them will require new molds that need some retools or repaints. Because a lot of them have none. No obvious ones, anyway. Like, I don't want gigantic, like, target masters with no gun barrels pretending to be engines. I want them to actually plug in as engines. And I want some way of making sure it still looks like a good vehicle, even if I don't have the engine plugged in. That's what I am after. And beyond that, just get the characters right. You know, you start with Dreadwing and Darkwing. I'm going to write that down next time. You get my drift at this point. But those are the ideas. That's where my brain is, Powermaster-wise. It's the lesser of the masters. But there are ways you can actually make it kind of cool. So let me know your thoughts. Hasbro apparently wants our opinions on what we want for Powermaster. So share them in the comments below. Who knows? Someone might see them. And with that, I will bid you adieu. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.
Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.